Good morning. You can hear me, Yaakov?
Yeah, good morning.
Hi, Danielle. Very good. Very good. Okay. Dum bum bum bum. Hoo 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 hoo. Bum 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 bum. Okay. All right, guys, here we go. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Memtes, again, dedicating the shiurim these days for all those who need to have a refuah shalema from this horrible coronavirus, and for all of us to remain healthy. Amen. We are going to continue to learn more on the laws of hatmana, on the laws of insulating, as we have been explaining, that if you insulate in a substance that adds hevel, that is something that may not be done even if you put it in those items Erev Shabbos. Insulating in something that only maintains hevel is taka something that may not be done on Shabbos itself, but yes, it may be done prior to Shabbos. We will also be learning on Daf Memtes a din of tefillin, a fundamental law regarding the mitzvah of tefillin, that tefillin tzrichim guf naki. We're going to define the meaning of a guf naki. We're going to have a machlokas amoraim. We're going to have for the first time in Shabbos the story of Elisha Bal Kinofayim. We're going to be learning again some hilchos muktzah. One of the categories of muktzah is any item that's not even a keli yet is intrinsically muktzah. And we're going to see how this applies both to the dinim of hatmana, and we will also connect the dinei muktzah to various dinei of tuma. By tuma, there's also a rule that if something is not yet a keli, it's not even susceptible to becoming tummy. And we're going to see that dinei muktzah, beneged dinei kelim, and dinei tuma, beneged dinei kelim, don't always travel on the same track. We're going to have on Daf Memtes Amud Beis a famous Gemara, Arboyim Chasar Achas Keneged Mi. Even though the Mishnah will only be on Daf Ayin Gimel, the Mishnah in Klal Gadol that enumerates all of the 39 malachas, but we already refer to them as the 40 minus 1. Keneged Mi means what do they correspond to? We're going to have a little bit of an insight in the Gemara. Why don't we say 39? Why do we say 40 minus 1? Here will be a Memtes Amud Beis. And more details, benegay a designation. If something as is not yet a finished product, but you decided to use it as it is, does that one-time use already render it into a keli? Benegay dinei muktzah, benegay dinei tuma. They might travel together, they might not travel together. Or do we say that only if something is permanently designated to be used as it is, let's say, will it take away its muktzah status? But if it was only used one time, we can still refer to it as something that's not a final product, and therefore it's still going to remain muktzah on Shabbos. And a lot more, With that, let us start on Daf Memtes on Medalef, 4 lines from the top of the Amid by the 2 dots, Elyahu. The Gemara is referring back to the Mishnah on Daf Mem Zayin Amid Beis, when the Mishnah was speaking about items in which you may not make Hatmana, not even Erev Shabbos, because it's Moisef Hevel. The Mishnah mentioned that you may not insulate your pot of food, not in tevin, not in straw, not in zugin, not in grape skins, not in moichin. We said moichin is unprocessed soft material. It could be cotton, it can be wool. Let's speak about wool. Below basavim, nor in grasses. But that isur is only if these items are moist. That is when these are moisef hevel. But the Mishnah says if they are dry, then they're not moisef hevel, and therefore you may insulate in these items erev Shabbos. Okay, so on that, the Elyahu, right? On bisman sheim lachen, they asked in the yeshiva, lachen machmas atzman. Does this only refer to the items if they have natural moisture, meaning moisture from themselves? Only then are they moisef hevel. But if they are moist, but from a outside source, they will no longer be moisef hevel, or maybe even if they are lachen, machmas davar acher, right now the natural moisture is gone. But still, if they have any sort of moisture, they still will be moisef hevel. So Tashema, so they responded by looking properly into the wordings of our Mishnah. When it says in our Mishnah, tevin, like we just quoted, not in straw, zugin, not in grape skins, right? So now they were analyzing the Mishnah and they said, if the Mishnah is also referring to these items, even when they have moisture only from an outside source, they lost their natural moisture, then the Mishnah works. But that's the only case the Mishnah is referring to. So moichin, unprocessed soft materials, lachen machmas atzman, hechem ishkachasla. Let's say we're speaking about wool. Okay, so you cut it off the animal and you didn't process it yet. How will they have their own moisture? From where? The wool by nature is not moist. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a raya. Maybe it's mimirta de beni atmei. It's from the pluckings that a person took off in between the thighs of the animal. That wool is naturally moist, and right away the person did atmana in it, and that is what the Mishnah is referring to. So now the Gemara says, oh, hold on. But now let's consider something else. We learned in a Braisa that was taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Ishia, or taught by Rabbi Ishia, that time in the that you are allowed to do atmana in a dry garment. Likewise, you are allowed to do atmana erev Shabbos b'peiris yevation and dry fruit. But not in a moist garment, nor in moist fruits. Now, moist fruits that we get, many trees, right? Many fruits are wet on the tree from dew, from rain. You can take them off right before Shabbos and they're still moist. But ksus lacha, it could be the fruits themselves have their own, maybe it means not only from rain, it must be their own natural moisture. But ksus lacha, but you're speaking now about a garment. As you can tell me that when you take wool of the animal in between the thighs, it has some sort of natural moisture, maybe from the sweat of the animal. But once you already made them into garments, by then that moisture is gone. Again, if it's only machmas atzman hechen mishkachasla, you cannot give the same answer. So that again would imply that it doesn't matter where the moisture came from, even if it came from an outside source, it still allows these substances to be moisef hevel. And the Gemara insists that you can't prove it even from the Tanach Rabbi Ishia. Again, I can argue that it is mimirta de bnei atmei, that if you took wool between the thighs of an animal and you somehow right away made it into a beged, it's possible that some of that original moisture is still in the beged. It's possible. So therefore, this question remains unresolved. Okay, more cases of atmana. Says our holy Mishnah, that you are allowed to do atmana in garments. Again, we're speaking about, like we just quoted from the Tanach Rabbi Ishia, that are dry, ubeperis, or in produce and fruit. Bekanfe yoina, that will lead us into the Agadata. In dove's feathers, really, it means dove's wings. In carpenter's sawdust. It's amazing. It was an old world. Today, they would use a towel for atmanim. They didn't have towels. So they would use all of these above items. And ubena shalpishtin, in the fine flax combings. In other words, that when they would comb flax, certain splinters would fall off. They were very fine. And they are items, according to the Tanach, that will not be Ma'asav Hevel. However, Rabbi Yehuda says, now hold on, Bedaka, you're right. If it's fine, it's going to be Ma'asav Hevel. But Umatir Begasam, now is he referring to the carpenter's sawdust? Is he referring to only no Eire Shal Pishtan? The Gemara is going to analyze that. But one of the items that we mentioned above, only if it's fine is it Ma'asav Hevel. If it's coarse, it's going to maintain the heat, but it won't be able to be Ma'asav Hevel. Al pi Chasidus, this sounds so good. In other words, if someone is coarse, they don't have the koyach to give off to be Ma'asav Hevel in a positive ruchnistic way. Only when a person is edel, daka can be Ma'asav Hevel. Okay. So now, since one of the items the Mishnah mentioned was bekanfe yoina, so Amar Rabbi Yanai. So Rabbi Yanai now is bringing in a whole different topic. That's tefillin. That for the mitzvah of tefillin, tzrichin gufnaki. You have to have, let's use the words, a clean body, a gufnaki. And like whom? Like Elisha Balkinofayim. Like Elisha, that was known as the winged one. Now, Mahi, first of all, what is the meaning of gufnaki? So Abaya translates this halachah as to mean shelo yafiach behem. Gufnaki means that a person while wearing the tefillin may not pass wind. And that's the reason, or at least one of the reasons, why unlike all the other mitzvahs in which a parent is mechuyev to be mechanech his child, many mitzvahs we begin keeping mamash from the beginning. Many mitzvahs we begin educating them from when they're 3, and then from all older ages, right? By a upshetanish, a child puts on a talis cotton. What about tefillin? Why not tefillin? Think about it. And the answer is because since you have to have a gufnaki, so we don't want that when the child is not old enough to understand the importance of it, for him to put on tefillin. You lose more than you gain. Shelo yafiach b'hem. Rava disagrees with Abaya, and he says, no, gufnaki means shelo yishan b'hem, you should not sleep in tefillin. What's wrong with sleeping in tefillin? So really there's a machlekes rishonim harolim shat and Rava. Interestingly, Rashi is you look right above, right under the Gemara in Rashi. So Rashi says, "Sholo yishan b'hem shema yafiach." If you will sleep, what might happen in your sleep? You might pass wind, or yirakeri, or you might have a seminal emission. Clearly, especially in the times of old, it was common for healthy men to have seminal emissions when they slept. For example, in the Pirkei Avos, one of the 10 miracles that the Mishnah mentions is that the Kohen Gadol never saw a keri b'yom HaKippurim. Big deal. Is the Haraya, then it was a big deal. Here you see also, if a person falls asleep in tefillin, it's possible there's going to be a seminal emission. So that's why you can't sleep. But Rashi is explaining where Rav is arguing with Abaya. As long as a person knows that they can make sure that he won't fall asleep in the tefillin, then kol hagufim nikiyim b'hafacha. In other words, Rav is not arguing that you're not allowed to pass wind when you're wearing the tefillin. But Rav says it's no big deal. You don't have to give a special thing. You can't put on tefillin until you know for sure. It's easy not to be in. Everyone is able to do it. It's like telling a person you can't go to the bathroom when you're wearing tefillin. Okay. The fear is that if you're going to fall asleep, then you lose the control over your body when it comes both to hafacha and for a unwilling seminal emission. And therefore, Rav says that the emphasis is shelo yishan b'hem. Really, there's another important detail. It's interesting to note, as of what time did people stop wearing tefillin the whole day? Because there used to be a time that people wore the tefillin the entire day. And it makes a huge difference because when you wear the tefillin the entire day, even without falling asleep, to make sure that shelo yafiach b'hem becomes a much harder thing. Nowadays, maybe that's what Rav is referring to. Maybe already in Rava's days, not everyone wore tefillin the whole time. So the gufnaki means you're not wearing it. It's easy while you are awake. But if they wore it for a couple of hours when they davened, then they learned afterwards. Let's say they wore tefillin for 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes people would doze off, and that's the gufnaki. Anyways, be that as it may, the machlokas Abaye and Rav. Other Rishonim understand that Rava shelo yishan behem has nothing to do with gufnaki of shelo yafiach behem at all. He completely argues with Abaye. There's a certain disrespect by the very fact that you are sleeping. Not because while you're sleeping something might happen. But that's not the way Rashi learns Pshat and Rav. Now, Vamai Karola Balkanofayim. So, okay, Elisha obviously was Machabet Tefillin. But why was he nicknamed Balkanofayim? And here we're going to have the story not once but twice. The second time we'll have the story will be in Masechta Shabbos by Rabbi Eliezer Demila, Daf Kuf Lamed, but here we have it for the first time. Shapamachas Gozru Malchus Remi Harusha Gezera Al Yisrael. There was a time that the evil Romans made a decree against the Jewish people. Shakol Hamaniach Tefillin, whoever wears Tefillin, Yinakru Esmoichi, God forbid, they're going to go out, they're going to take out their brain. And this is particularly regarding Tefillin Shol Roish. That's why they're going to take out the brain upon which we put on the Tefillin. However, Elisha, Elisha was in defiance, stood in defiance against this decree. We're going to speak about the question whether this is not one of the big three who gave him the right to be Meiser Nefesh. We'll get to that in a moment, very important. But Elisha defied them. He didn't only wear tefillin in hiding, he wore tefillin out there on the street. However, one time, Kasdoid means a DA officer, a prosecutor saw him, and Ratzmi Panov, and when Elisha noticed that he was observed by the Kasdoid, Elisha ran away from him. However, that person, V'Ratzachrav, ran after Elisha. Once he caught up with Elisha, Natlan Mei Roishai, right? The decree was against Tefillin Shel Roish. He took off his head tefillin and he held him in his hands. So before we go on, here is the famous question on the story, Miman Avshach. If we're going to say that since this tefillin, it's not from the 3 sins for which we have to Yeharig Va'al Yavad. It's not idol worship, adultery, or murder. So Ebazoi, who gave him the right to wear tefillin? And if there's a reason, obviously, that he felt that Yeharig Va'al Yavar, they have to wear tefillin, why did he take it off? That's the big question. So to answer this question, look inside Tosfos, the first line under the Gemara. Tosfos Divrei Amaschal Natal Miroshai. So Tosfos doesn't word it as a Miman Avshach question, but he says the following: that even though we learn in Sanhedrin Daf Ayin Daled Amud Beis, that what? That true, normally the rule is that only for 3 sins, Yeharig Va'al Yavar. For all the other Averos, Yavad Va'al Yeharig. And Kanamakim to mention that there was a big Machlekes Rishonim. We learned Rambam every day, so we should be familiar with Shitas Rambam in the beginning, in Yisai Hada in the beginning, that says that if a person is going to be willing to give his or her life for any mitzvahs other than the 3, then they're violating, killing themselves. They're not allowed to give up their lives. That's Shitas Rambam. Just to note that the Ramban disagrees. The Ramban holds that for the 3 big sins, you're not allowed to Yavad. You have to give up your life. For the other ones, if you want, you can choose Yeharig Va'al Yavar. So the question of Tosfos is not based on Shitas Ramban. Obviously, this Baal Tosfos holds like Rambam. So therefore, he must explain the following. So, Bachlal, how is he allowed to wear tefillin? And the answer must be, because when do we say that a Yid only Yeharig Va'al Yavar for 3? If it's an individual, one guy is telling one Jew, you violate the will of God. But if you have a decree by the government whose purpose is not for the benefit of the government, you got to work on Shabbos because we need to have more money, more production. They're doing it because they want to uproot our emunah and our religion, our religious practices. Then even for a minimal practice, we have to give up our lives. And as the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, that the color of the shoelaces of Yidden were not like the Goyim. And that's B'chal. Tangentially, it's important to have a malbush in which we dafka don't look like the Goyim. And the Gemara says that if the government is making a decree, we want Jews to look like Goyim, and therefore use the shoelace color the way we use. It's called the Arkes de Masana. if it's a Gzeras Hamalchus against our Das, then Yeharig v'al even for that. So therefore, Tosfos says it must be that the reason why Elisha Balkan Ephraim was in defiance and he wore tefillin bashuk, not that he wore it in his house, was because since this is considered Gzeras Hamalchus, that's what Tosfos is saying, it's not stam. They told us to violate a mitzvah for the benefit of the government. They wanted to uproot our religion. And therefore, the rule is that even though it's not the big three, afilu al mitzvah kalo yeharek va'al yaver va'afilu lishanuye, even to change the arkas of the masana, the color of the shoelaces. Okay, so now that's explaining why Elisha was in defiance of the Romans. But now the kasha is, why did he take off his tefillin? Yeharek va'al yaver. So here Tosfos gives a big chiddush. Says Tosfos, the reason why for arkas of the masana you have to give up your life. So they wore red shoelaces and we wore black shoelaces, or it's the other way around. I don't remember. We got to wear the Jewish color shoelaces. And you have to do it, even if you're going to lose your life. Haina Mishum, the reason is because you have no other option. Mishum de Bishenuye Arkisa, if you're going to wear their color, then Misnaheg Koevet Kechadem. Then you're going to be behaving like Goyim, and the Doime Shemoitzi Atzma Mechal Yisrael. And for that, Yeharig Val Yaver. Avalach says Tosfos, once on one hand, he wore tefillin. He wore tefillin in the public. But now his taking off the tefillin is not a problem. Why not? So when the Kasdard reached Elisha, at that moment he wasn't wearing tefillin. So what? Tosfos says, many Yidden already in the times of Elisha did not wear tefillin the entire daytime of the day. 12:6 by the B'yayim and not Shabbos and Yom Tov. So by him taking off his tefillin, he's not behaving like a goy. Many even already did not wear tefillin bashuk. So on one hand, he ignored them. But now that he was being chased, and there's a responsibility here, again, according to the Rambam, if you're not obligated to give up your life, you're not allowed to give up your life. He decided, listen, I'm wearing tefillin. But now that I'm being chased, I can take it off because forget about the guy chasing me. Every now and then, even a Yid without a Gezeda would take off a tefillin bashuk. Okay, so he felt that he's allowed to take it off now, and he held it in his hand. Back inside the Gemara, back inside the story. So Amar Loi, so the Kazar tells Elisha, Mazavi Yodecha, what are you holding? So Amar Loi, so he tells him, Kanfe Yoina, dove's wings. And Pasha Tes Yadai, and when he opened up his hand, the Nimtzu Kanfe Yoina, what was in his hands? Kanfe Yoina. Some people say that actually there was a dove in his hand, and the dove flew away, but that's not the pshat. Is that the miracle happened, and the tefillin turned into the wings of a dove, and from that story on, Elisha Balkan Ephraim. So we don't see from this story that Elisha was particular in the gufnaki. We see that Elisha was particular in the mitzvah of wearing tefillin. And obviously, since he was machabed wearing tefillin in the asay toif part of tefillin, kilo it's a given that he was also careful in the surmina of the tefillin. Now the Gemara wants to know, why did God make the miracle dafkin in wings of a dove? And the answer is mishum the imsil kanas Yisrael yoina, because the Jewish people, the collective Jewish neshama, is compared to a dove, based on a pasuk in Tehillim, whereas we find the pasuk in Tehillim, kan feyoina nechba bakesef, like the wings of a dove covered with silver. This is a pasuk in which we make this comparison to the Jewish people. And the meaning is, says the Gemara, that ma yoina kinofer magino shalel, just like by a dove, the wings of a dove protect the dove. Af Yisrael, mitzvahs maginois aleim, the mitzvahs protect us. Now, hold on a second. Dove is the only bird who is protected by wings. What other birds are not protected by their wings? So look inside again. The second Tosfos under the Gemara, the little Tosfos, right? The middle Tosfos under the Gemara. So Oimari, why dafka dove? Because it says in the Midrash, right, that kol ha'oifis k'shehem yigeyem ninoichem al gabasela. All other birds, they're in flight, but when they get tired, they rest. They have to go down. But Vahayoina is unique, that even Bishashi, even while she's tired, still she flies, but she needs to rest. So she flies Ba'achas, she flies with one wing, Vininoichas Ba'achas, and she allows the one wing to rest. And then it flips. Very interesting. No, it never rests. And that's the Yid, even when a Yid is unable, he can't keep one, he keeps another mitzvah. or let's go al pi Chasidus, we have a whole, many Parakim and Tanya are explaining that which we have in Zohar, that Parcha La'ela, that's not Benegea mitzvahs, it's in Benegea, the Kavana of Chasidus in mitzvahs, the Ava and Yira, that you have to have Ava and Yira, these are the two wings, Dafka two wings. And then we are also B'Ashgacha Pratis now, we're in Perik Mem Beis, but in the Perik Mem Aleph, the Alter Rebbe emphasizes that the base of everything is Yira Tata. Yira is only one wing. In other words, even at a moment, even if there is a time that a Yira is unable to arouse Ava, at least we have the Yira that the Alter Rebbe speaks, that every Yid has, when you make a little contemplation, etc., as the Alter Rebbe speaks out. And that's why we are compared to a dove that somehow, if need be, can function even with only one wing. Okay, back inside the Gemara. So the Tanakama mentioned all of these items. The last two of the items was Nesayah Shal Charashim, carpenter sawdust, and the Oire Shal Pishtan Daka. Rabbi Yehuda says only Daka but not Gasa. So again, so they asked in the yeshiva, Rabbi Yehuda is arguing maybe also on the Nesayah Shal Charashim coin, or only on the Oire Shal Pishtan coin. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda will hold that when it comes to carpenter sawdust, even Gasa is also going to be Moisef Hevel, just like the Tanakama does not differentiate. Or is Rabbi Yehuda arguing even on the side of Shal Charash, the Tanakama doesn't differentiate, and Rabbi Yehuda says, yeah, only Daka. So Tashema and the Bryce, it's clear. The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer No'ir Shal Pishtan Daka Hareu Kizevel. Clearly, he's speaking only about No'ir Shal Pishtan Daka. Unlike in our Mishnah, where the Mishnah doesn't speak the Mishnah doesn't say the words Na'ir Shal Pishtan after it says Rabbi Yehuda, Shmamina, that Rabbi Yehuda only argues on Na'ir Shal Pishtan Shmamina, and on the Nesayah Shal Charashin, on that, there is no difference. Even Gasa is able to be Moisef Hevel, thus Asur, even out of Shabbos, to make Hatmana in it. Next Mishnah. You are allowed to insulate an out of Shabbos in animal hides. In other words, they are not Moisef Hevel. And furthermore, and you can move them. Now, what's the look inside the Rashi. The Rashi is teaching that the Tanakama is saying that these hides, whether you use them even only once or whether you did not use them at all, they're not muktzah. Most cases, people take these hides and they work with them, they turn them into a keli. Here, it was not done yet. Why don't you say it's muktzah? It's still considered the raw material. Since it's fit as is for people to recline on them. And not only is it fit, but as we'll see more details in the Gemara, people actually used hides the way it is without working them, without tanning them. So therefore, we view hides already as an article that is muchan, that is not muksa. However, let's go back in the Mishnah. What about gizeit semer, wool shearings? Wool shearings normally were made into threads before you made them into threads. So here the Mishnah says these are also items in which you are allowed to insulate because they're not Moisef Hevel. But what about the muksa? But the gizeit semer is already muksa because people made them into thread. So says the Mishnah, but the ein metaltal and oisan. Just because ein metaltal and oisan, they're muksa, it doesn't mean that you can't make hatmana in it. It just means that it's muksa. We spoke about this quickly yesterday. Elama, when you take the food out, right? So what do? So if the whole pot is insulated in this gizeit semer is muksa, ketzer uoisam, the Tanakama says, well, noite esakisu vehem noiflois, which means that you open it's called tiltul min hatzad. You don't directly touch these hides. You take off the cover. And when you take off the cover of the pot, being that the gizeit semer is also, let's go on the cover, it's going to automatically make the cover slide off. That's mamash called kela'achayad or menatzad, but you are indirectly moving it. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah agrees that tiltul menatzad is allowed when it comes to muktzah. Muktzah only means you can't move it in a usual way. But he says in our case, that's bad advice. Why is it bad advice? Because think about it in a second. Gizeit semer is not a kupa, it's not a box. And therefore, once you take the pot out or the cover out and the gizit semer slides, it can slide in, right? There's like a cavity in the gizit semer. It's soft. If you take out the pot, it's very likely that it's going to collapse in itself. If it collapses in itself, then there's no longer a cavity in the gizit semer in which you can put it back. You're going to lose that the contraption. You verstehst, we're not speaking about completely removing it. Completely removing it, we said hatmana may not be done on Shabbos. Question is, can you take out the food and somehow keep it in there? So Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says, kupa mata al tzida, tilt everything to the side, both the gizit semer and the pot that's in it. And when you do that, then some of the food will fall out of the opening of the pot because it's tilted to the side. And take the food and then stand it back up. And what is he benefiting? He's benefiting to make sure that you don't lose this whole cavity, and therefore you are able to keep it there for the rest of Shabbos. Because Shema Yitoil, if you're going to take off the cover, let's go with the Ramah that we spoke about yesterday, right? So again, we're not. If you take it out, you can't put it back in. But if you only take off the cover, then since it's still in the Gizit Semer, it sounds like you can keep it in there. But you might not be able to keep it in there. It might collapse in a way where it no longer will function as a proper hatmana item.
Rabbi, this is the ether of tilting a pot and taking out some food in Shabbos if it's still on the hot plate?
No. Okay, just for those who didn't hear over here, we're not. We're speaking tilting a pot when it comes to the dinim that we learned about in the previous Perek regarding shihiyah and chazara. Tilting is not the solution, right? We learned that you can't take the cover off a pot when it's on fire, even if it's on the fire on the blech, because when you take the cover off, then there's going to be what's called moisif hevel, and you can't do that on Shabbos. So you have to take it off the blech. But when you take it off the blech, there's a whole question of chazara. And even though you have a blech, so there's many conditions, halacha l'maisa, that have to be met for us to be allowed to put it back on the fire. Not only that the fire is covered, but when you take it off, you don't let go of it. You hold it in one hand at least. Not only do you have one handle in your hand, but you have intent to put it back on. That's the way we paskin. If all of that is met, then you can return it. It's not about the tilting. You have to take it off the fire altogether. Anyways, back over here. The Chachamim Oimrim, no, noitil umachzir. You can take it and return it, and we'll see in the Gemara exactly, like Rashi says over here, what exactly is the Chachamim saying to Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, and unlike the Tanach. Okay. So we're going to leave the sefer for, God willing, for later. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rabbi Yonasan ben Achinoi, and Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar, and the Yosef Rabbi Chanina bar Chama Gabayu. So you had originally two Amoraim, then this third Amoraim came and joined, and now that you have these three Amoraim together, the Komi Boyaluhu, they raised the following question. We'll see, it wasn't two asking one. A question was raised, one Amoraim gave an answer, another Amoraim gave an answer, and this was a question. Shalachim Shabalabais Tanan is our Mishnah that's saying as a fact that Shalachim that hides before they are tanned are not muktzah. That's only if they belong to a Balabayis. Now let's speak about hides that a Balabayis doesn't know how to take a hide and make it into a pair of shoes. So for him, it was common that he used a hide as a rug. He used a hide as a mattress, as is. And taka, that's why it's not muktzah. But the first wide line, aval shaloman. But if these shalachim belong to a craftsman who knows how to work with these hides and make them into something that has greater value, then kivan the kapad alayu. Since normally he doesn't want for you to use it as a rug. Any non-professional can do it. He normally would want to work taka with it and make it into something more valuable, and he would not want you to use it for anything else. So then then you can't be metaltal it. Can't be metal because it's muktzah. Now, does it mean that you can't be metaltal if you never used it even once for hatmana? Or does it mean that even if you used it once for hatmana, it's still muktzah? We'll see that. We'll get to that today, God willing, at the end of Daf Mem Tes on the base. Or maybe that's what they were asking this Shalom that even if it belongs to an uman, since some people use these hides, even umanim, as a rug, so it's already considered a keli, it's not muktzah, and the kolchchen shabalabayis, so which one is it? So when they brought up that question, that it's mistabra, that our Mishnah is only shabalabayis tanan, Abel Shaluman Kapet Alayu. So is the Shita of Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar. And on that, who argued with him, Amalov Rab Chanina Bar Chama, I disagree with you. And he quoted, Kach Amar Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yosi, turning to the New Testament days. So Rabbi Shmuel is saying that Abba, my father, means Rabbi Yosi, was a shalacha. He, for a living. Imagine he was a tanner, as we learned at the end of Kedushin, oi to the tanners because it's such a foul-smelling parnasa. But that's how it was. These great tzaddikim, to make a parnasa, he made hides. And yet, even though he was an uman, v'amar, he once mentioned to us, heviu shalachim v'neshav aleim. Bring me a rawhide because I wanna use it as a rug, or use it as a mattress. I want to lean on it. In other words, you see that even an uman is not particular to make sure that every single hide will only be used in their manufacturing to make it into something more chashuv. No, and based on the quote of Rabbi Shmuel of how the minute of his father, he held Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama that our Mishnah is also speaking about. Even speaking about Du'um. And now the Gemara is going to try to resolve which one of these two are correct. Meisvei. We learned in a Braisa, Nisaden Shabalabayis, wooden boards. Wooden boards also, it's a raw material. You can argue, you can use it as is. You have a wooden board, you have a crooked table, you can put the wooden board under one of the legs to straighten it out. But most people, especially if they are an uman, they would work with the wood, they would make it into something more important. So the Braisa says, if you have wooden boards of balabayis, then metalkel and oisei, they are not muktzah machmas atzman, because some balabatim use them as they are. But shaluman, a metalkel and oisam, then if they are by default muktzah, they're not muchan, because it's still for them a raw material. It's only the im chishav losis aleim pas lo archim. Only if they intended to use this board as is, as a serving tray, for example, then benkach or benkach metaltalin. But without that designation, by default, there is a difference between a balabayas and an uman. So l'chora, just like we find that by nesadim, by wooden boards, the same should be on hides. So like the first Amoida, like Rabbi Yonasan, and not like Rabbi Chanina. So the Gemara says no. Shani nesadim the kapadalayu, and every raw material is different. Wooden boards, taka and uman will never use as is, unless he actually did so. But by default, it's not muchan. But hides are more common for people to use hides as they are, and therefore they're not muktzah. Tashema, another attempted proof from another Braisa. It says oirois, hides, bein avudim, bein she'ein avudim, whether they were tanned or not tanned, muter letaltalam b'Shabbos. Then the Braisa itself continues, however, lo yamru avudim, elo le'inyan tuma bilvad. Here the Braisa says that just like we are learning the name muktzah, we have something similar, but as we see here, not mamish on the same track, but we have, what's the similarity? When is an article susceptible to becoming tamei? If it's considered a keli. Before an article is considered a keli, then it's not even susceptible to becoming tamei. So the Braisa says that there is b'negei dinei tuma, a differentiation between avudim, it's susceptible to tuma, she'einam avudim. If it was not designated by its balabayas to be used to lean on, then it's not makabel tuma. True, for tuma there is a difference, but for dinei muktzah there's no difference. Neither of them, avudim or einam avudim, are not muktzah on Shabbos. They don't travel on the same track. So now the Gemara says, l'chu'ura, my love, loishna shabalabayis, v'loishna shaluman. So if I catch this is an ayah, like the second Tamoida, the one who quoted his father, that even his father was a professional shalacha, nevertheless, he would sometimes use one of his hides to lean on. So the Gemara says, no, you can't prove it to him. Maybe this Bryce is only speaking about Abal Abayis. Abal Shaluman, the Gemara counters it can be, because if that's the case, Abal Shaluman, my ein metaltalin, when the Bryce is differentiating dinei muktzah to dinei tuma, and the Braisa says, "Lo yamru el avudim el tum bilvad," it's not a correct statement, because the Braisa also could have said, and therefore should have said, that for dinei muktzah there is no difference. Avudim ben she'ein avudim is only negeh to dinei tuma. That's only b'shaval abayis. But by an uman, even for dinei muktzah, there is a difference between avudim and einam avudim. The Brisa should not have omitted that. Says the Gemara, no, that's not a proof. I'm standing my ground. By an uman, there is a difference between avudim and einam avudim. Eloma, the Brisa is only speaking about an abalabayas. The point that the Brisa wants to make is that don't tell me that if something is muktzah, right, which means it's not a keli, it's not susceptible to tumah. Once something is designated as non-muktzah, because it is a keli, it will automatically be susceptible to tumah. They don't travel the same on the same track. And to point that out, we spoke about Shabbat Abayis. But it could be that the Brisa also holds, right, like the latter Amaida, that Shalom, and there is a difference. Okay. So, so Api Hasid is the whole concept of an uman. The Rebbe is the uman. We are like the animal hides. Question is, do we have any value? So that's maybe the Machlokes Amoraim. Here we're arguing that even for an uman, even an oiros, even if we didn't yet do our own avoida, epis value we bring to the table, which is a nice thing. Okay, so the Gemara says at the end of the back and forth that ketanoi, that really this Machlokes Amoraim is a machlokes tanoim, so don't even try to prove from one tana against one or the other amaida, because each amaida has a tana to rely on. Where do we find the machlokes tanoim? So now the Gemara quotes a brayso, oida shel balabayis, then metaltalin oisai by default, but for shaloman, if it's only an oid, if it's not avudim, then a metaltalin oisai. Rabbi Yosi oimer, Rabbi Yosi says, echad zeh. If this Rabbi Yosi is the father of Rabbi Yishmael, it's mamash fits, because he himself, who was the shulacha, he would use even oiros that are not avudim. Or if it's another Rabbi Yosi, it doesn't make a difference. Here you have a machlokes hanoim. Okay, just to know, could be that Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Yosi is an amoira. I'm not sure about that, but be that as it may, machlokes hanoim. Now that we are quoting this discussion that these three Amoraim had, now we're going to quote another discussion that they had that touches upon a general approach to all of the laws of Shabbos. Hadur Yasvi. They sat another time together, or they continued in the same sitting, the Kama Elyahu, and they brought up the following question. Ha Ditnan, that which we'll learn in Klal Gadol, Daf Ayin Gimel, the Mishnah and Shabbos that enumerates all of the 40 minus 1. So they asked amongst themselves, Keneged me, you have to know how to teach these words. Either it means, to what do they correspond to? We're going to read in Tosfos in a moment how Tosfos teaches the words Keneged me. Let's go Keneged me. So Amalu Rab Chanina bar Chama, right, the latter Amoida and the last, the one that opined the second. Here he said the first, Keneged Avodas HaMishkan. It corresponds to the labors of the Mishkan. My friends, you have Rashi, Beroish, and all the other Rishonim teach that Avodos HaMishkan doesn't actually mean the labors that happened in the Mishkan, but it means the labors that happened in the construction of the Mishkan. So says Rashi many times in this Masechta. There was once later that Rashi quotes Rabbi Goin, which is a Das Yachid, that says, no, that it's not the way we always say. It's those malachas that were done in the construction of, in the preparation of. Avodas HaMishkan means that they come from 39 malachas that was done in the avodah in the Mishkan. Wow. Now, this is not only a theoretical, but this also translates in many halachas l'maisa. Maybe we'll speak about it at a later time. But let's just know that the Rashi explicitly a few times and many other Rishonim say avodos hamishkan means the labors that were done that were necessary in the construction of. Okay, and there were 39 malachas. There were 40 minus 1. Amalu Rabbi Yosef ben Rabbi Lazar, Kach Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi Yosi. Before it was Rabbi Shmuel, here it's Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi Yosi ben Lakunya. Keneged, listen to this. In the Torah, we have the word melacha mentioned many times. We have also the word melachtoi mentioned many times. We have the third word meleches. If you're going to open up a Chamisha Chumsha Torah and count, you know what number you're going to come to? Shabbat Torah Arboim Chasarachas, 40 minus 1.
Wow.
Not avodas hamishkan. When God says Loi sasa melacha, or loi seyasa, right? Melacha. Don't do melacha. Since the Torah uses the words melacha, malachim, melachas, arboim chasarachas, that's the keneged me, arboim chasarachas. Now, a lot to speak on this. First of all, look inside the second Tosfos, the third Tosfos in the Amid. Arboim always chasarachas keneged me. Tosfos explains the question of the Gemara like this. We all know it's 39, and we know what they are. That was not the question. Question is that many of the Avos Malachis are so similar to each other that it would have worked had we bunched them together. How do you get to the number 39? The Harbe Malachis, Tosfos says, Yesh the Damyan lahadadi. And the Gemara's question, these three Amoraim were asking, V'havalon lemachshavinu kulam ka'achas. They should have been counted as one. He's giving examples that Zoyre and Boirer and Merakeit can be argued are one. One can be the Av, the others can be the Tulda. Like, we're not, the Kenegani was, we know what they are, but why you could have given them a much smaller number. That was the Kasha. And for that comes the answer that no, since the Torah says malacha, malacha, these three expressions of work, malacha, malachtoi, malaches, 39 times. So that's why we gave the number 39. And we separated various malachas that could have been counted as the same. That's Tosfos. Rabbeinu Hananel has a bamba kasha. You see, we're in a different madrega. When Rabbeinu Hananel read this Gemara, so in his mind, right, he went through the whole Torah, and he came to the conclusion that malacha is not 40 minus 1, it's 61. It's nishtemes. Oh, so look inside the Rabbeinu Hananel. It's like it's a little bit towards the second half. It's a very narrow column. I mean, it's on the right side. It's 61. Answers that Rabbeinu Hananel Chavar Halkop, I guess. Kishatoitzi Gimel Melachos that are written in Vayichol Hashemayim, because that's about God's Melacha. They don't count. When you also deduct the 4 Shekasav Behem Ve'osisa Vayasa V'Teyasa Uleregel HaMelacha. When you deduct the other 13, where it says the word Avoida Keneged with Melacha, where it says Kol Melachas Avoidam, deduct those. Now you have, and they total 21. His question was there's 61. So take off 61, you're up to 40. 40 is still not good yet. However, since amongst the 40 is Sheishis Yamim, Loisasim Elacha, that Loisasim Elacha cannot be counted as one of the 39, because we are analyzing how do you know to define this Loisasim Elacha to be referring to the 39. So really you have 40. But one of the 40 is Loisasim Elacha. That is the lav itself. That cannot be counted. So when you take the Loisasim Elacha out, you have 39 left. That's the Arboim Chasarachas. Really, it's 40, according to the Samoyra. But one of them is not counted as a detail because it's the generic Loisasim Elacha. Beautiful. Rabbeinu Hanan. Back inside the Gemara. Okay. Now, Amar Boy Rabbi Yosef, you have it. So Boy Rabbi Yosef, hold on. He also went through what Rabbeinu Hananel did. He got to the 40. But he asked the following question. When it says, Vayavoy habayso lasois malachtoi, when Yosef Atzadik, right, when he was being seduced by the wife of Potiphar. So it says that he came home to do his malachtoi. Now really, what does that mean? There's a machlekes here, what the taich of that pasuk means. Either lasois malachti means he came home to do his work, his household chores, or malachti here actually means that he came to fulfill his needs. At that moment, he was going to fail. And then, like Rashi brings down the Gemara in Soita, then he saw the image of his father, and he held himself back on the last moment. So he wanted to know: is this melachta part of the minyana or not? Is it part of this 30 to 40 minus 1 or not? So I asked Rabbi Yosef. So Amalei Abaya tells Rabbi Yosef, I don't understand your question. You want to know whether this is one of the 40 minus 1? Count all of the melachas and see if this is needed or not. And me, loy, Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan didn't. We already have Rabba Bar Bar Chana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan say elsewhere that they were having a discussion. We'll see in a moment, maybe where, and so in order to clarify such a technical question, they actually took out a Sefer Torah and they counted. Now, what is this elsewhere referring to? So it's a very interesting Rashi. Now, many people remember Kedushin Daf Mem, right? We just had in the last week, Shmini Gochain, when the Gemara is going through the meaning of the Soifrim. The earlier tzaddikim were called Soifrim, like Ezra HaSoifer. Many people have a limited taich. Ezra the scribe. First of all, it's not wrong to say that, but that's not the main meaning of Ezra HaSoifer. Ezra HaSoifer Be'ikir, according to the Gemara, means Ezra, the one who knew how to count. And there's a knowledge of counting the letters. So when the Gemara says in Kedushin that the Vav, the big Vav of the Gochain, one of the Shmoyne Shiratzim, is that Vav is the middle of the letters of the Torah. So then the Gemara asks in Kedushin, well, does the Vav go to one half or does the Vav go to the other half? If you remember that Gemara. So look inside the Rashi over here. That Leizazu Misham. The Rashi is in the top third. You also have the little simon of Rabbi Kiva Eger, of the Gilyon Hashas in the beginning of Rashi. Rashi begins by saying, Lo Yodana Hecha Itmar. I don't know where the elsewhere refers to. However, maybe Efsher Le'inyan Vav de Gachin Itmar, as we have in the Kedushin, that the Gemara asks the Vav of Gachin, which does it belong to, the first half or to the second half? And if you look in Kedushin, it's interesting. The Gemara says that Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana, in the Kedushin, at least that I have, it doesn't say Amar Rabbi Yechanan, number one. It says that didn't we learn elsewhere that Leizazu Misham until they counted. That's why Rashi thinks that only maybe it refers to that case. Only maybe because where was the Iker place? You can't have two stories, or it's not galactic to have two stories in the Gemara, one here in Shabbos Daf Mem Tes, one in Kedushin Daf Mem, and each one is referring to the other case. It already happened elsewhere. Where was the Iker place? So that's why Tosfos holds it's only an Efsher. Just another time we mentioned the Gemara in Kedushin, just to know the following about counting and about how the Gemara there actually answers. Over there, we don't know how to count anymore. And to point out the following, that Yisrael means Yei Shishim Ribi Oisla Torah, one of the Rosh Tevos of Yisrael, 600,000 letters to a Torah. Today we know, if you were to count the way we know how to count letters, that an Aleph counts for one, and a base counts for one, but count the letters in the Torah, it's 304,805. 304,805 letters to the Torah. And that's an odd number, my friends, which means that if you were to divide that number in half, it's an odd number. So the whole question of the Gemara wouldn't even fit, because when the Gemara in Kedushin is asking, does the Vav go to the first half or to the second half? Now, if there are, and there really are 600,000 letters to the Torah, maybe certain Alephs count for 3 letters, because an Aleph is like the Hayom Yom, the Yud in the top and the Yud in the bottom and the Vav in the middle. You have to know how to count the letters. Some letters can count for more than one letter. It has to be that way. See, when you have an even Novin letter, when you have 600,000, then the whole kash of the Gemara in Kedushin makes sense. And Taka, that's the way it is. Because 600,000, then when you cut it in half, there won't be a middle letter. It's either going to be to the first half or to the second half. And Taka, it's 600,000 letters. It's not 304,805. And that's why, and that's why the Gemara cannot answer that the Vav is in the middle. The Vav is not in the middle. The only question is, which half does it belong to? And there they answer that it won't help you to count because you don't know how to count. And if you don't know how to count, you'll never know which half does the Vav go to. Coming back over here the question is, was the pasuk in Vayeshev, is that part of the 49? So Amalei, so you respond that counting won't help. I'll tell you why. Because Kikam Sapkali, really, when you make the count, you're going to find, after doing the cheshbon of the Rabbeinu Hananel, that it's not 40 minus 1, it's taka 40. Even after you take off on 6 days, you should work. And on Shabbos, don't do work. Take that out, you will still have 40, not 30, not 39, because there was another one. And now we're going to quote another malacha mentioned in Pashas Vayakel. This is fascinating. As it says, V'hamalacha ha'yisadayim. V'hamalacha ha'yisadayim means that the work was enough. And the question is, maybe that's part of the minyana. In other words, you cannot count these two. If you were to count these two, then you're not going to have arboim chasar achas. You're going to have arboim. His question was, which one of these two have to be taken out? Because one of these two, the word malacha doesn't mean malacha. And he didn't know which one is it. And here are the two options. Do we say, he explains the question, that the one in Vayakel is part of the Arboim Chasarachas? And if that would be the case, Taka, why don't we count the one in Vayeshev? Because Vaha, meaning the one in Vayeshev, is command Amr, is the one that teaches that the word Malachta in Vayeshev doesn't mean work. It means that Yosef Atzadik, at that moment, he entered the house, to fulfill his needs, not malach of work. If that's taka the pshat, then that cannot be counted because the malach there does not mean work. That at that moment he was about to give him to his yetzer hara, or dilma, or no. That vayovev last malachta ifaker. The taich in Vayeshev is Yosef didn't even have a havamina to sin. There he came home that day. No one else was there other than Eshes Potiphar and now Yosef. But he came there to do his household chores. And malacha means kipshut, they work. And then this malacha should be part of the minyan. How do you have 40 minus 1? You should have 40. Because if this is part of the count, then the one in Vayakel, Vahai in Vayakel, Vahamalacha Isadayim means Hachi Kamar, the Shlim Le'avidita, that they stop bringing donations. Bringing donations, if the meaning of malach was bringing donations, then this is not called work. It's not called malach, so therefore the vayakel won't be counted. That was the boya. Counting won't help you. You're going to find this one and that one. So how do you touch the psukim according to this that says that arboim keneged chasarachas is keneged malach. That's what we ask, and on that we say teku. And by the way, here again you have the arboim chasarachas. Again, another pashut, because aside of the one that Rabbeinu Hananel takes out, the generic, don't do work on Shabbos, take aside of that, you really don't have Arbaim Chasarachas, you have 40, because if you're going to count both Vayeshev and Vayakel, you have 40. One of these have to be taken out. And that's to remember that, we say that it's Arbaim Chasarachas. Now, there are other insights into the Arbaim Chasarachas. We have that by Malchus. That why do we say by Malchus 40 minus 1, say 39? And there is an approach, a Gemara, that really you have to get 40. Chachamim have the koyach to take one less because they were afraid that since if you give Tosef, if you add one more, then you're violating the law of Baal Tosef, and God forbid if the Yid dies because he gave him another Malka, then you murdered him. So to prevent him from getting an extra zetz, the Chachamim took away one. So really it was 40 that they took away one. That's not the case by Shabbos. Okay, let's go right. Tanya. Says the Gemara, Tanya command Oman, Kineged Avodas HaMishkan, the way Rashi teaches. The avodas that were necessary in the construction of the Mishkan. The Tanya, Ein Chayav El Al Malacham, Shechayotze Bo Haisa B'Mishkan. Clearly, that we have this link. When am I Chayav Achatos V'Shoigig? If I did something that was done in the construction of the Mishkan. And the Braisa gives examples. Hein Zaru, they planted. So therefore, Va'atem Loisizru. Let's hold on for a second. Let me ask you a question. Exactly where did we plant in the Mishkan, right? We were in the Midbar. You can't plant in a Midbar. Be'eretz Loizerua. The answer for that is that we learned it right, and I think Danny was teaching Daf Lamed Hey, the Be'eresh Miriam. This we know today, that we're living here in Hashgacha now in Golis in Los Angeles, and it's a desert. And we know now that if you put water in a desert, it becomes fertile land. So being that the Be'eresh Miriam, right, on Daf Lamed Hey that we had in the Girs in the Gemara was that it's in the Yamatichon. I don't know if it was mentioned when you guys learned Daf Lamed Hey, but when the Gemara says, I mean, you go up to Hara Carmel, right, and you look, you can maybe see it from the Mount Carmel, you can only see into the Mediterranean Sea. The Midrash Vayikra Rabba writes the Ferish, according to Tanach Rab Chia bar Abba, that the Be'eresh Miriam is in Yam Kineres. And as many Achronim point out on Daf Lamed Hey that there's a mistake in the Girs and the Gemara, that the mountain that the Gemara is referring to, going up and seeing, is Har HaYishimoin. But anyways, then because of the Be'eresh Miriam, where the Yidden camped, it became fertile land and they planted. They mamash planted and va'atem loisizru. Back inside the Braisa. Heim kotzru, they read va'atem loisizru. Heim helu asakarashu mikarka la gola. Karka was Rishus Arab. Agola is a Rishus HaYachid, so therefore Va'atem lo yisachnisu from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. Likewise, in the Mishkan, whenever we camped and we took the Karashim off the Agolos, hey, we need HaKarashim from the Rishus HaYachid, and we put it to the ground, which is the Rishus HaRabim. From that, Va'atem lo yisoitziu, we may not transfer from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. Now we're going to learn briefly a third case. Hey, they took the Levim that was standing on the karka, and they helped move a beam from one agola to another agola. So from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid. Hold on, right? We learned this. We spoke it out many times. Emes that midrabanan from one ownership of Rishus HaYachid, you talk midrabanan cannot transfer to another's Rishus HaYachid. But midoiraisa, you are allowed to transfer Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid. So fragt die Gemara, Rishus HaYachid, mi ka avid, are you violating a malacha midoiraisa? No. So it means if you are doing what we will learn on Daf Tzadik Vav, what's called moishit, handing over, that if it's going from one Rishus HaYachid, you are standing in a Rishus HaRabim, and you're handing it over to another Rishus HaYachid that is taka a isur da'iraisa, and we'll leave that for Daf Tzadik Vav.
Where was that in the Midbar?
Where was that in the Midbar? Right? So in other words, you could insulate because it's not Moisav Hevel, but Gizet Semer is Muksa. So Amar Rava says, Rava loishanu ela shleitam. When the Mishnah is saying that Gizet Semer is Muksa, it's only if it was never used for Hatman. But if it was used only once, you had moichin or gizek semer, a gizek semer, and you put into it your pot, then since you used it once for a purpose, so it's a keli, it's muchan, and metaltalim bahem. Yeah? So there was a Rabbanan, he was in the first day in yeshiva. Normally when you come to a new yeshiva, you're shy to ask a question on the first day, especially to challenge the great Amoida. You want to see how it works. This Rabbanan, the first day he came to the Beis Medrash, when he heard this, whether he asked Rava directly or whether he brought up the question, how can that be? You look in our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, and the Mishnah asks, what should you do? Turning to Daf Nun. And you had the Tanach, then you had the other Shitas in the Mishnah. Obviously, when the Mishnah is giving the example of how you do it, whether it is tiltal kala achayad, whether you lean everything to the side, obviously the Mishnah is also speaking about a case that you already used the gizet semer. The fact that you have to do tiltal kala achayad means that even if you used it once, it's still muksam. Just because you use it once, it's not yet considered an item that is permanently designated for this purpose. So indeed, the Gemara corrects, that Amar Rava, when our Mishnah is speaking about a case that it was not permanently designated, it remains muksa, even though it was used once. Avol, Rava added, if yichad al hatmana, then metaltalin oison, and itmanami, ki asa Rava, when Rava came from Eretz Yisrael, many times he quoted Rabbi Yechanan. Here he's quoting Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Asi, Ben Shol, Amar Rebbe, once it was permanently designated, then it loses its muksa status, God willing, to be continued.
Rabbi, how was the Midbar? In the Midbar, how did they have?
I can't hear you.
How did they have Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim in the Midbar?
Oh, so like this. The source of those Rishonim that say that Rishus HaRabim means an area in which 600,000 people use is because we were a group of 600,000 people that the Torah mentions.
So because of the walking.
In other words, all of the roads, especially we're speaking about everyone brought things to Machna Levia. Machna Levia, the roads in Machna Levia were used by 600,000 Yidden.
Because of the amount of people that were going through. Not big.
Going through there. Yeah. And then the oil or the agolis, they were at a Rishus HaYachid.
Yeah. Rabbi, the opinion that says that it's all about the word malachas, whatever it is, right? Does that mean that you don't define the malachas as what was done for building the Mishkan?
No. That's why we learned the Tosfos. The way Tosfos learns, no. It's almost like they're not arguing. He just wants to know that even if you're going to define it by the malachas for the Mishkan, even though the Gemara says Tanya like that opinion, he wants to know that you would have, without the malacha and malaches, you would have given the Melech Shabbos a different number. He's saying that Boider and Zoida, winnowing and separating. What do you do when you winnow? Winnow is another way of separating it. You would have grouped it into the same. You can even, the way Tosfos learns, even if you have the Avodas HaMishkan, why use the number 39? When so many of these malachas are so similar that they could have been given one number.
Rabbi, to that point, can you go over the 61 and Rabbeinu Hananel? I didn't understand that.
Rabbeinu Hananel says, he's saying that if you count in the Torah, malacha, meleches, malachtoi, I think I got it wrong, malacha, malachtoi, meleches, you'll have Abarim Chasarachas. Rabbeinu Hananel says it's not emes. You'll have 61. So he tells you which ones should not be included. There's a logic to what he's saying. When you exclude every one that he mentioned, then you're left with 40. And then he says one cannot be counted because that is the one that the Torah says don't do work. And then you want to know, how do you define work, or how do you get to the number? Since there are 30 other 9 times where the Torah uses the words work, that's the 39.
So do we know what those? Do we know what those ones are?
Yeah, of course we know what those are. No, you have to open up a Chumash today. You can do it with a Google search.
Okay.
Simply, if there's a computer program that you can type in right now, find in the Chamish Chumsha Torah Melacha Melachtoi Meleches, and then deduct the ones that Rabbeinu Hananel deducted. You'll see the 40. But the Gemara really says even after you do all that, you don't have 40. You have 41. That was the whole thing. You really have 41. So one we deduct because it's don't loisase malacha. After you deduct that, you have 40. Why do you have 40? Because if you're going to count both the one in Vayeshev and the one in Vayakol, you have 40. One of these two have to be taken out because one of these two, the word malacha doesn't mean the conventional malacha. Either the malacha means bringing donations, not doing work, or malacha means that he wasn't going to do household chores, he was going to do his needs.
Rabbi, but we define malacha as the way it was done in the Mishkan. So these two opinions, they don't disagree on that, right? Meaning,
l'cha'ir or not, even though Danny, it's mashma when the Gemara says Tanya liked the one that said avodas hamishkan. It sounds like that there is a. If they're not b'chlal disagreeing, it doesn't mean it's not a stira the way Tosfos learns. It means that we have an abraisa speak clearly making the link to the Mishkan, but still you can ask, okay, it comes from the constructive labors done in the Mishkan. So what? Why are you numbering them 39 when some of them are so similar? Some of them are very similar. It's almost like they are addressing different, the keneged me's is a different type of question. All right, Chevra.
Yom Tov. Chazak u'barach, Shabbat tov.
Gesundheit.
יישר כוח, Rabbi.